Let's see what's new today on the internet. Okay, well, maybe I just don't need to talk about it this time. Maybe this time I can just let it go, not be angry, not drag Cosmopolitan, and just move on with my day, you know? Like, it's just a trash magazine. It doesn't really matter. People are gonna say, how does it even affect me? Maybe yeah, I'll let it go. What about if I just drag them? Because honestly, it's really inappropriate, and I don't know why they keep trying to normalize this. They always try and make it sound like it's this great and innovative thing to be accepting, but maybe I'm gonna drag them.
All those moments will be lost in time.
Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today, if I look dead inside, referencing my t-shirt, but also it's just really how I am, it's because we're talking about the flaming garbage fire that is Cosmopolitan. And I know I've dragged Cosmopolitan a series of times, but it's just so crazy to me that we are living in a world where not only pedophiles want to be added into the LGBT community, but we have magazines like Cosmo minimizing and kind of trying to convince us that incest is okay and cool. And every time I make a video like this, people will come out and say, what's the big deal? Don't police other people's lives. And I'm not, because I'm not stopping anyone from doing it. I'm just saying that to me, the concept of having intercourse with a brother or a sister, a father or a mother or whoever, your cousin, is gross. Now, I don't have cousins or siblings, but even just imagining a hypothetical sibling and intercourse and being attracted to them makes me want to vomit. So let's just get into this video, I guess. Girl describes what it was like to have sex with her dad. The sexual intensity was nothing like I'd ever felt before. It was like being loved by a parent you never had and the partner you always wanted at once. Okay, sorry, but in what world would you ever want to talk about your parent and your partner when you're talking about sex in the same sentence? Unless you're saying, I never think about my parent and my partner in relation to sex, in which it's okay. But here, it's just like, I feel like just reading this sentence is going to cause some irreversible trauma on me that I will have to live with forever. Because I just don't understand. I've made a couple of videos about Cosmopolitan and incest, and I just don't understand why they keep talking about it. Genetic sexual attraction, GSA, which I mentioned in my other videos, so I'll link those below in case you want to see the rest of the incest narrative they have going on, seems to be a real topic of discussion at the moment, with numerous stories of long-lost family members who reunited only to discover an intense sexual attraction being bandied about all over the place. And another one has emerged today in the form of an interview by Jezebel. In an initial first-hand piece published by the site, a woman called Natasha described her experience of GSA. Meeting her father, age 19, she ended up engaging in a sexual relationship with him, all the while struggling with the countering emotions of self-loathing and disgust. Well, understandable, because Natasha, he's your fucking dad, so you shouldn't be fucking your dad. Like, I've really been trying to minimize the swearing in my videos because my mom thinks that it's unladylike and all that, and she watches my videos. But Mom, I think you understand that here, like, this is not the time to minimize on the emphasis that bad words bring. Natasha didn't grow up with her father, explaining that he actually left while her mom was pregnant, but she says her mother's falling relationship with a woman didn't leave an unfilled hole for a male authority figure. Now I can relate because my father left and wasn't part of my life and hasn't been for the last 15 years until recently, so I can totally relate to wanting a male authority figure. That's where me relating to this person probably ends. My mom's long-term partner was a patriarchal butch lesbian, so I already had a father figure in my immediate family, she said. But because her mom's partner, whom she split with when Natasha was 19, had been emotionally abusive, she set about tracking down her father. I was desperate for anything else. So when I found my dad, it didn't matter that he was a man, it just mattered that he was a parent, she recollected. After Googling her father's name, she managed to track him down as living in Jamaica and says he was thrilled at her getting in touch. When Natasha first met her father, she describes being taken with him, but in a non-sexual way. Until a year later, when she recalls feeling sexually attracted to him, and during the following year, she and her father had oral sex 4 or 5 times over the course of a few days. See, now, this story I feel like is even weirder than the other stories, because in the other stories there was, you know, like when they first meet up, there was like this crazy sexual attraction, which I still don't understand and still grosses me out, but I can still somewhat make that work in my head, like where I can almost empathize. But here they met and it wasn't like a first time thing. It wasn't like an immediate reaction. It happened later, which somehow makes it grosser and creepier to me, because it's like you've already established this kind of paternal role, but then one day what happened? Pants just fell down? How does this even happen? I really genuinely don't understand how this even happens. It was literally night and day. At night, the first night, I felt thrilled. I thought, there's nothing wrong with this, just cultural norms that are meaningless. The sexual intensity was nothing like I'd ever felt before. It was like being loved by a parent you never had and the partner you always wanted at once. The traumatizing phrase we will never be able to forget. And then in the morning we had oral sex again, and that's when I wanted to puke and felt like a criminal. At night I was really into it, but by morning I wanted to die. That's not a hyperbole. I really wanted to die. Discussing her intimate relationship with her father, Natasha labeled it crazy, but not necessarily in a bad way. We understood each other's bodies as if we'd been lifelong lovers. I've had to teach most of my partners how to do things, and obviously he's a middle-aged man. He's had lots of sex, but there was more than that to it. Some deep psychic connection. It felt like he knew me better than myself. The sex was intense in a way that no other sex had been. Okay. I don't know why I didn't get my setting spray / holy water for this, because if there's any time I would need some setting spray, it's now. And I feel like generally some bleach mixed with holy water maybe is something we should all look into to take a bath when this video is done, because I don't know how I'm gonna go to school later and pretend that I didn't read this, because this is scarring. We understood each other's bodies as if we'd been lifelong lovers. Ugh! Oh, God.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
But the progression of their sexual experience only stopped because her father took control. I had tried to have unprotected intercourse with him, which I'd never done before in my life, she said, and he stopped me and said, "We can't, I'm your father." Oh, so now you're conveniently a father? When the condom thing comes up, like that's your limit. That's the point where you're like, hey, maybe this isn't a good idea. Good to know. While this made Natasha believe her father was trying to protect her at the time, years later, she thinks of his actions as terrifying. He was in control, totally in control. He knew exactly what he wanted. He knew exactly where to draw the line. I, on the other hand, was completely out of control. I did everything I could to stop it, despite the intense feelings I was having. I told him how powerless I felt. I told him I needed him to stop it because I couldn't. He agreed but kept initiating, and so it happened a few more times until I was finally able to end it when I holed myself up in the other room on my last night there. Following that trip to Jamaica, which had been her third, Natasha felt so disgusted at herself that she entered into therapy and stopped seeing her father. Although he was in contact with her at the beginning of her counseling sessions, she soon began to feel anger at the situation and stopped answering his calls. He wound up sending me an email, eventually apologizing. It wasn't a particularly long or insightful message, it was just, "I'm really sorry for what happened. Too little, too late." Thank you. For once we have a story that ends tragically, because this is what happens when incest happens. It very rarely has a good outcome. Thank you, Cosmo, for featuring a story that for once has a terrible outcome, because all the other stories seem like it was a fairy tale and it was like the best thing ever. And here, finally, the garbage that is Cosmopolitan, even they put up a story where it was negative. Thank you. I'm glad that that ended on a tragic note, not because I'm glad that Natasha had that traumatic experience, but just because I feel like they have been so openly just accepting of incest, and you think of accepting as a positive thing, but I'm like, some things are not meant to be accepted, some things are not meant to happen, and this story highlights one of the reasons why, because then you need to go to therapy because it wasn't supposed to happen. Anyway, in the description box, I'm going to include one of the articles that I read, that discusses the ramifications of incest if you are interested in a more academic perspective about the studies that were done. After this, I think I'm going to bomb it because I genuinely don't feel that well now. So thank you guys for watching and going through this with me. Thank you to my patrons as always, and let's get right into the fan art.